Good day, my name is Christel from Frans, Klerk Independent Technical Analysts. Kevin wanted us to kick off the show with British American Tobacco, but this is not the one listed on the JSE. This is the one listed as an American depository receipt on the New York Stock Exchange. Now, Kevin, we can see when the stock changed that 40-week moving average on the 18th of March 2019 into a resistance, it struggled to start to trade above it and to keep that level as support. Now that 40-week moving average is the long-term sentiment gauge. Above it, we assume that the long-term sentiment towards the share is positive, and below it, it changes to negative. Now the share is struggling to change it into a support, and that 40-week moving average is waiting on the spot at $37. Now the indicator that I've used here to highlight overbought and oversold levels is the stochastic indicator, but we can see it's in no man's land. It's sitting on a 37, it's still pointing downwards, and there's no clear direction of overbought or oversold levels yet. However, there is a possible positive formation here. If I move this trend line up here to where that window was closed there around $41.82, I might be sitting with a possible cup and handle formation, or what some might say a higher low, because the share retraced, found some support here around $31.29, bounced a little bit, found resistance and retraced again, but not as low as that previous level. It found support there around $34.85. And if the stock can find enough buyers to lift it again above this $41.39 level, a beautiful turnaround pattern will be on the cards. However, this is a strong resistance that needs to be overcome. It's waiting there around $39.09. So Kevin, I think for a long-term investor, and that is why I've used a weekly graph here. Wait for that 40-week moving average to change into a support on a Friday close. In other words, by a Friday close, that stock needs to close above $37 and then maybe start to nibble or accumulate on the share. Stop loss that you can use is $34.50, or if you want to give it a little bit of a bigger spread, you can use that $31 to protect your capital. Keith wanted us to look at Kumba again. Now, Kumba has at the moment an ugly head and shoulder formation on it. First thing, that 40-week moving average has changed into a resistance. In other words, the long-term sentiment towards the stock has changed to negative. We can see for about 4 weeks it tested it, changed it a little bit in support, but last week it went up, tested that 40-week moving average and started to retrace. Now that can be seen as a technical goodbye case. It went to test it, said it goodbyes, and now it's retracing. Now the target of that head and shoulder formation is, if I have a conservative target, I can use this right shoulder here, and the target of that head and shoulder formation is 338 Rand 67. Or if I want to use the full target of formation, it is the head to the neckline of the formation projected downwards. And we can see it can take the stock back to 243 Rand 45, which is the strong levels it found there around November 2018. So the big test, Kevin, will be to see whether Kumba can change that 40-week moving average into a support again, or if it can't. Now, the neckline is waiting there around 382 Rand 66 on a weekly graph. Above it, they might take a sigh of relief, but below it, they'll keep this graph a lot closer. When will the negativity of this formation be off the table? Well, the first place will be when Kumba starts to consolidate above 423 Rand 37, or above that left shoulder, which is waiting above 483.79. Only when Kumba starts to consolidate above those levels will I feel more comfortable that that warning formation is obsolete and is off the table. Mashi wanted us to look at Northern Platinum. Now we know all the platinum stock has just rallied to the top, and it still is, Mashi. The momentum to the top is clearly in place. We can see the share tested the 40-week moving average here around the 19th of August, and ever since then has just rallied to higher levels. But I've drawn in here a consolidation band, and that is waiting between 80 Rand 17 and 73 Rand 85. Now, we can assume that as long as the stock remains above this consolidation band, that the momentum to the top will continue. Now, the question is always, where can I take my profit or where can I get in? So if you're already in the stock, Mashi, which I assume you are by reading your email, is I would ride it as long as possible. But my first warning sign would be there below this 80 Rand 70 level. When Northern Platinum starts to consolidate below 80.17, especially on a Friday close below it, I would maybe consider to take profit that Monday. If you want to give it a bigger range, you can maybe use this level there, that bottom range of the lower band, and that is waiting at 73 Rand 94. When the stock starts to consolidate below these levels, I would consider taking some profit. Otherwise, if you want to get in, I think it is definitely too late. We can see our stochastic is heavily overbought at the moment. It's sitting on a 96. Yes, my two moving averages within the stochastic is still pointing upwards, but it is in overbought levels, which makes the probability of a pullback just more likely. Now, Mashi, I can see that you like platinum stocks because you always also wanted us to look at Impala, and the same principle applies here. The momentum to the top is clearly in place. My first warning will be when Impala starts to consolidate below 91 Rand and 2 cents, or when it starts to close on a Friday close below that level. But we can see even on the candles that the buyers are clearly in control and that they are driving this stock to higher levels. Where is my previous resistance or strong resistance on Impala? So if I go back, we can see here around 112 Rand 57 is a strong support or resistance level that can be used. Even 124 Rand and 7 cents, and then back there to 136.21. Now, if I zoom this graph out completely of Impala, we can see that there is a long-awaited double bottom that has been forming and that has started to form there, let's say around April 2015. So yes, it has been taken years for this double bottom to form, but we know that the target of this possible double bottom is the width of either the left or the right shoulder projected upwards from where the neckline of the formation is confirmed. So Mashi, we can see that 121 Rand 52 is a fairly conservative target for this possible double bottom that has confirmed. Just keep in mind that it has taken years, as I said, from May 2015, so it's about a little bit more than 3 years, that this stock has built on this double bottom. So it can also take another 3 odd years for it to play out to 121.52. We always use the example if you take a ball and you throw it into the air, it takes a lot more energy to get it there and to keep it there. But when that ball starts to retrace and gain momentum, it is as if it's falling over its own head and it just plummets to lower levels. So it's often it's a lot more difficult for a stock to rise to higher levels than when it starts to turn around, because the turnaround action and the plummet and the retracement to the downside happens a lot faster. So be careful. It's been a beautiful rally, but be careful when the stocks may be retraced. Don't be surprised if it falls a lot faster than what it has built over the long term. Gail wanted us to look at the Rand dollar. And we can see that that double top is still in place. And let's rather call it a consolidation band, because I want to highlight these strong levels. The support on the USD ZAR pair is waiting at 1382, and that weakness is waiting there at 1548. Now we can see it is a strong resistance level, and if the Rand continues to consolidate below this 1548, we can assume that the strength will be in place. Only when the Rand starts to consolidate above 1548 against the dollar can we expect more weakness. Now, yes, it is consolidating above that 40-week moving average, which means that the weakness is in place, but we can see that resistance has been strong. Yes, the dollar is overbought, or the Rand is oversold at the moment. We are toppish at the moment, which makes the likelihood of strength of a pullback more probable. But then it needs to keep that 1548 level a resistance. Now, some might say, Chriselle, we can easily see more weakness in the Rand, all the negative news, foreign inflows that's been poor, etc., etc. But I expect maybe a stronger Rand if the 1548 level remains a resistance. And yes, before you roll your eyes, a stronger rand, because I want to take you to the dollar index. Now, the dollar index is a basket of the dollar against foreign currencies, the euro, pound, Japanese yen, and the basket of other currencies. But the dollar index highlights a rising wedge formation here, and that is a negative formation. Now, it's trading at 99.05, so you first need to understand how the dollar index works. But it is basically 100 is that perfect level. So in other words, this negative formation can easily bring the dollar a lot lower. In other, a weaker dollar. This formation implies a weaker dollar. And therefore, it supports my viewpoint that I expect maybe a stronger rand. Because assuming everything remains the same and there's no serious tweets and negative news from South Africa, I assume that this negative formation will give me a weaker dollar and therefore a stronger rand. And take note of how close that 40-week moving average is to that lower band. So that level on the dollar index is waiting at 97.21. When 97.21 on the dollar index changes into a resistance, we can easily see the dollar index back at around 95.22 and even as low as 93.89.